Ravi Uppal, Managing Director and the CEO of JSPL, joins us live from New Delhi. Ravi, good morning and thank you for joining us. Before we get into specifics about JSPL, tell me a bit more about the steel industry. The month of December was not a very encouraging month for the Indian steel sector. I was looking at the production number and they don't look that impressive to me, I'm afraid.
Well, the third quarter, because of the lot of holidays in the month of December, the demand is normally low, and unfortunately November also has not been very promising. So I think, but we are looking at the fourth quarter more optimistically. Generally, the fourth quarter is supposed to be the biggest quarter among all the four, and we have seen some uptick in demand. But let's see. We're just at the start of the fourth quarter. And I'm trying to be more optimistic when it comes to demand.
I like your glass half full approach, but let's have a realistic approach. Who's going to buy into steel? Government planned expenditure is going to go down. Private sector capex has not started. Car demand is not there. Appliance production is at a 7-year low. So who's going to be buying steel?
Well, there has been some movement in some sectors of infrastructure, especially in housing. And some of the road projects are taking off. So we have seen some uptick. But as I said, that is too soon to make any judgment about how it's going to be. But we have to remember that during the first 9 months of this year, the demand has grown just by about 0.5%, which is very low and very disappointing.
Mr. Uppal, hi, morning. What about exports? Because, has there been a significant boost in realizations that you've seen in the third quarter because of exports?
Well, export has been, quite good compared to the previous years. In our own case, we have done exports, which is twice as much as we did last year. But I think industry on the whole, has fared well on export front. And of course, the dollar, which suddenly had risen against rupee in the month of August, September, led to a huge surge in exports. But later on, it has settled down to a more modest number in terms of growth.
Are you a big beneficiary of the import substitution demand, or the real benefits of that are yet to kick in?
Yeah, well, the imports this year have not been that high, partly for the reason that the growth in the steel demand has not been that high, and secondly, the rupee had depreciated against dollar. That also made the imports more expensive. So all put together, the imports have been fairly modest this year.
With the government's new norms now, Mr. Uppal, for UMPPs, what's the benefit for companies like you?
Well, UMPP, after a long lull, there seems to be some activity on UMPP. The two prospects are being talked about, one in Odisha and the second one in Chennai, in Tamil Nadu. So the RFQs have been done and the RFPs will be submitted soon. Right now, the expectation is that the offers will be submitted sometime towards the end of February.
Ravi, if I just take the clock, let's say 3 or 4 years back, the power scenario in India was that there was only demand and little supply. Now there is no demand and lot of supply.
Well, I wouldn't entirely agree with what you say. I think there's still a lot of demand. It's just that there are some areas where we have no way to deliver power, especially if you take south of India. There's still demand to the tune of about 15,000 megawatt, which remains unfulfilled. But there are no transmission corridors. On the other hand, you look at states like Chhattisgarh, Odisha and Gujarat. They are surplus in power, but there's no way for them to send power out. So, there's a bit of an imbalance right now. I think that we really need to build up our transmission capacity, especially the corridors between western and the southern states. And I think that should make it, the power more available to the southern part, as well as create demand for those units which are surplus in power at the moment.
Ravi, I was interacting with one of your large shareholders over the weekend, and his take on JSPL was that I like the stock. It's a cheap stock. I'm not worried about the cyclical nature of the industry because it's a steel and power industry, but I'm worried about the current political problems or the CBI problems the company has got into. How would you address this query for the market? Because the reason why your stock is underperforming is because there is no clarity on what is the way forward.
Well, I don't think that our shareholders need to harbor any anxiety on that account. Certain cases, the questions have been asked with regard to certain mines which are given to us. We are answering them. We are very clear in our mind. We are one of those companies which have really made use of the natural, minerals which are given to us. If at all we have been going coal mines, it is not that we trade in coal, not at all. We use the coal that we get for production of steel or production of power. And we have invested billions of dollars building up the plant which basically use this, minerals, whether it's coal or iron ore. So therefore, our stake shareholder don't need to harbor any anxiety. JSPL has been a consistent good performer. We are fiercely competitive. We have done well in India. We are doing well in the export front. I think they need to sort of retain their confidence in the company.
Mr. Uppal, give us an update on Stemcore. The sale of their Indian assets is still under legal hurdles. What's the timeline and investment that JSPL has planned for the Stemcore bid?
Well, like others, we also have expressed our interest in the Stemcore assets, and we are in the process of making our bid. Earlier, the bid was to be submitted on 6th of January, but the date has been extended up to 20th, so therefore we are working to that schedule. So we will submit our proposal, and let's see what the outcome is.
The company has announced an buyback offer from the market. Have you managed to buy back any shares from the market? Can you tell me the number of shares, or can you define the quantum?
No, well, yes. So, our buyback is progressing very well, and I think that we will be able to meet our timeline and the target. I have no anxieties on that account at all.
So at what level?
I can't tell you the number of shares, but
no. So at what price is the management buying the stock? I'm just curious.
The buyback offer was at 261, and I think we are in the neighborhood of that, slightly less than that.
So final question, just to wrap it up from our side. For 2014, what are the big plans for JSPL? Would you be adding some new capacity? Are there any new plants which will get commissioned? What I'm trying to gather from you, Mr. Uppal, is that how will 2014 be different from 2013?
Well, we are very optimistic and upbeat about 2014. During the 13-14, we basically focused a lot on building new capacity. Our steel capacity by the end of this financial year will be doubled. And our power capacity will also nearly be doubled. So we are going to harvest the benefits of what we are investing and the capacity build-up we are doing in the year 2013 in 2014. So we are very positive about 2014. I think that would be a year for us to harvest.
Will you take Jindal Power public this year?
Jindal Power, I cannot comment. That is an option which is there with us all the time. When is it that we go public with Jindal Power is something which will depend upon our requirements of funds for investment and also the general sentiment in the market. For a start, I would say that I don't think it's a good time for anyone to come into the stock market, especially when it comes to the traditional goods and services. I think the environment has to look up. We think that post-election the sentiment should be positive. And if we are fortunate to have a stable government, I think that we will return to the high growth story for India. I think that's about the time one should consider coming back to the capital market for traditional goods and services.